So here we are back with this character again. What we're going to do now is rename the bones to make them something more useful. So instead of having everything called joint 1 to whatever joint we're up to, 27 there, 34, I don't know, all these different numbers, to try and make it more relevant to the actual model. You never know that in future you might need to give this model to somebody else, and to save them kind of trying to figure out what you've done, it makes life a lot easier if you just rename these as they should be. So what I'm going to do first though is just slightly move this bone to somewhere in the middle to not make this as small. So just selecting the bone and just lining it up there a bit more in the middle. So we've got a bit more to play with in terms of how the bones look basically. So that all looks fine now. Right, so the first thing we need to do is to rename this bone here. Unreal needs a bone that it can recognize as a skeleton. So regardless of what you call all of this here, this bone here has to be called root. So quite simply, now I'm in the attribute editor or whatever, or click on the kind of joint down there. It makes no difference. We need to call this capital R OOT. Right. That has to be root. Anything else can be called whatever you want to call it, but that's the important one to get out of the way. Okay, right. So the renaming tool that I mentioned in terms of the commit stuff, if you download the commit stuff from Blackboard, there should be commit rename and commit joint orient. To get these working, if you open up the script editor just by kind of clicking on the box down here, clear all the history, and you've got the two windows here. I'm hoping at some point you've maybe played with these last year. If not, all we're going to do is launch a couple of scripts with it. We're not going to do kind of any Mel or Python or anything. So wherever you have your current rename, my current rename is just basically sitting in a folder just off screen here. Grab a hold of it and drag it into the bottom window. When you leave go of the bottom window, now the Mel script should just happily copy into here. When you've done that, if you hit the enter key on the number pad, not the one on the actual main keyboard, but the one in the bottom right hand corner, the one on the number pad, that will send all that information, it will run it, and it will appear on the top screen. Once it's appeared on the top screen, you have actually ran the code, but it hasn't displayed the window. So you need to run the function. And the function itself is the name of the Mel script. So either in here, or down at the bottom of the Mel script here, all you've got to do is type in the name of the Mel script. So if you just type in exactly as it is, so lowercase c, O-M-E-T, capital R, E-N-E-M-E, it's a function, so it needs two brackets as well, and it's optional to do the semicolon at the end. When you've done that, if you hit the enter key again on the number pad, it should launch the window, and there it is over in the corner. You can close that window down now. So here's the commit rename stuff. It's fairly straightforward. Search and replace, basically if you give it a string, give it what you want to replace it with, hit search and replace, anything that's called that will be replaced with this, but only what you've got selected. So if we select joint 2, 3, 4, 5, if we select all these joints and we search for something called joint and we replace it with the word bone, if we hit search and replace, it updates all the words there. Prefix is what you think it is, hopefully, so stick something before the word joint. So if you do I am a and hit prefix, it'll hit I am a joint to all of the things there below. And suffix is what you add to the end. So you can type in a suffix, and do so there. Hit suffix, and everything selected will have the word on the end. As you can see, there are no spaces, so if you want to kind of make this a bit more readable, you might want to start putting underscores into it. So when you run it again, it just becomes a bit more readable eventually. And the last one we have is rename a number. So this will rename the whole of the joint, and it will give it a numbering system. Now the numbering system is important that it works in the order that you clicked on the bones. So if you do joint 2, joint 6, joint 4, joint 8, it will renumber it in that order. But if you just got a string of things to do, if you hit the first joint and then shift select the next joint, that should suffice. So let's say we want to change the number of it and we want to call it bone instead. Start is the starting number, so start 1, 2, 3, whatever kind of you want. One's a fairly obvious one to start with. And the padding depends on how many zeros you want following the actual number that you've got. So if you start with a padding of 1, nothing will happen because obviously the number is at 1. But if you start with a padding of 2, you'll get 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, etc. So if you just do bone, do underscore, and hit that, you now get 0, 1, obviously if you were to make that 10 instead, you wouldn't get the 0 in front. If you wanted to do that, you'd need to make the padding 3. Name a number, and then you get the padding of 3. Okay. So the best way to rename these that I've thought is you start with the main number, and then you add the prefix to the start of it. So perhaps the best way to do this would be if we just go back to where we were, and let's have a look at maybe the neck. So find the bone for the neck, which is joint 5. We've got 3 bones, so we've got 5 and 6 and 7. So we've got those 3 bones selected, and if we call it neck underscore, start with 1, and we don't kind of need any padding for this, so we can leave it on 1 or 0 and hit that. So we've now got neck 1, neck 2 and neck 3. We still want it to be a joint, so if we do add prefix and call it joint, add prefix, and there's the joint. Let's give that the underscore as well actually. Underscore, add prefix. So we've got joint, neck 1, neck 2, neck 3. Makes a bit more sense. We've got the leg, so perhaps you want the leg here. So if we select this bone, and then the one below that, one below that, one below that, perhaps we don't want the foot. You can call it leg, I guess, if you want, but maybe just leave it as foot. So we've got the 3 leg bones here, so perhaps call it front right leg. So FR underscore leg, again, padding of 0, hit rename, then we've got FR leg 1, FR leg 2, FR leg 3. Joint at the beginning again, and there's joint. You'll have to rename the foot by itself. It's not that difficult to do. So front right underscore foot. You've got the nub at the end there as well, the little kind of the extra thing. We could use that as a rotation point if you want to at some point. So let's record. And again, add the prefix. So there's that leg done. Same thing again maybe. If I can find this one. So those 2 bones, obviously it's the rear right foot this time. So we can do the rear right foot. Rename a number, add prefix. With stuff like the pelvis here, you can call it whatever you want. So we can call it, maybe call it pelvis, I guess. You've just got to find it. There's only one of them, so it doesn't really need a number. Joint 3 happens to be there, so you can call that perhaps the chest area. We've got 2 bones here, so you might want to call it chest 1 and chest 2, so let's do that. So if we select that joint, and then that joint, chest, underscore, rename, and we've got the joint sorted out there. Oops, a daisy. At the back here, oh, I don't know, let's call this hips. So if we can find it. And we've got the legs here as well. So these 3 legs, and I just call it right rear leg, again with the padding. And that should be okay for that leg. The tail and the end of the tail, so got that. And we've got these 2, whatever they're called, I mean, kind of, just give them a name. Let's call it particle. We've got the head. Doesn't really need a number, does it? But we'll leave it there. It should be fine. Although we do have this one here, which is kind of doing nothing. So that might be worth calling it a head joint as well. And the one below that, that's the jaw. So head 2, select them both, stick joint in front of them. Jaw. Jaw end, and here we've got the eyeballs. So joint eyeball RT. Eyeball LT. So that may be everything other than the other side of the legs. So again, 1 joint, 2 joints, 3 joints, and we'll call this would be FL leg. Rename that, that one and that one. FL foot, and there, there. Rear left leg. And that, and the joint below. Rename that prefix. So I think that's everything renamed. So we've got the roots, the pelvis, down to the chest, 2 chest areas. So chest 1, chest 2. Pelvis is fine. Neck 1, 2, and 3. Head, jaw, eyeballs. I'll change that slightly while we're there. Front right leg 1, 2, and 3. Front right foot. Front left leg 1, 2, and 3. Front left feet. The 2 particle points. Hips. Tail 1 and 2. Right rear leg 1, 2, and 3. right rear foot, and rear left leg, rear left leg, rear left leg. Okay, so that's everything named quite nicely. So that's the end of that bit. The last bit is the most important bit in terms of the actual rig is concerned, and we need to make sure that all the joints and everything else are frozen and they're all pointing in the right direction. So we're going to have a look at the other script now, which is the comet joint orient.